Okay, so Gothic has different, each language has different vowels, and Gothic has different vowels than English has. Um, the language with the most similar vowels to Gothic would be like German, but the thing about German is that long vowels appear basically in like stressed syllables and like in unstressed syllables. There's been like so much vowel reduction that a lot of words aren't like pronounced. So for like a lot of the vowels aren't really pronounced the same way. Like and also German has undergone its own changes. Um, so a good way to demonstrate that is with the German word Auge. So we have Auge and Gothic Auge, Auge. So this just becomes Auge in German. Um, whereas in Gothic it's oh. So this represents the change where au, Proto-Germanic au, becomes o, and Proto-Germanic on becomes, like in this case, it just gets reduced to a schwa, Auga, like Maria, this sort of like weak vowel sound that is like, is the result of a lot of, unstressed vowels. Um, and you don't really see as much these long vowels outside of the stressed syllables, whereas in Gothic, if I just so the stress is if you were writing like Gothic in the Latin script, you could write it like this to show that this is a long vowel, and um, this little accent mark can mark this little accent mark can mark multiple things. It can mark that it's a long vowel, so all and not all, like in German Gott. But it's actually like it can also mark that it's stressed. So it's depending on how you're using it. Like for example, if we have the word uh, al doro. Um, so ogadoro, ogadoro, depending on how you pronounce it. This D, whether you want to pronounce that hard or soft, it's not written down whether it's hard or soft. Um, and in the regular Gothic script that you'll see in the manuscript, you get ogadoro. Oh, oh, wait a second. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's I think I should actually go here because it's comes from. I'm pretty sure it comes from like door or something. But in any case, here you can see like both of the uses of the accent mark. So here I have this like this grave accent. I think it's called. I think that's what it's called. And this acute accent on the stress syllable. So the stress is always on the first syllable, and unless there's a prefix. So if there's a prefix on a verb, then the stress still goes on the actual like the root. Um, I don't think the word I don't think is ever stressed. So presumably, well, I mean, if it's so presumably, I think this is a word. Gayuka, Gayuka. the stress should be on the I, I'm pretty sure, but in any case, it doesn't matter for what I'm talking about today. So we can put this E here, put this long oo over here, and short oo might go here. Might be in the same place, or might be more centralized. It's not exactly clear. But in any case, I want to talk more so about the long vowels today. So here we have a, oo, if I put that there, and then this, here's the a, and then I'll put the o, and then we have which can be short or long. And in English, we have our closest equivalents. I drew this by hand, so it's not going to look as good as if I used an actual image, but I don't think it matters too much. So crap. Just use this. So here we have the vowel in bad. I'm just going to try to put each of the vowels between a B and a D. Body goes somewhere around here, and this will differ by accent. Here we have bed and bade, like you bade someone farewell, past tense of bid, and not that common. But let's see. So bead, that's a good word. Food, I'm not sure what food means. I'll just go with food because it's it's close enough. Or I'll I'm not sticking with this. Um, oh, and also we have bid. I'll try to go with the BD just to be consistent. But we have both. But I mean, as long as it's clear. And then I think you could have like bot for some accents, but for me, like the ba body and the ba like bot are the same. Is it that? I think that's yeah, that's no. But something like this, and my accent. I'll just get rid of this because that's not my accent. So my accent looks something like this, but the problem is it doesn't actually, because there's a few other problems. Is that mainly a lot of these are actually diphthongs. So bade isn't the same thing as bade, 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 bade. So um, I'll mark the IPA here for these sounds, and these are the most useful sounds. I mean, these are the IPA is like the most useful set of letters for describing sounds, is what I mean to say. And it looks something like this. So here are the symbols in the IPA. I'm going to have to switch to a Greek alphabet because I want to type these. Uh, I don't actually have all of these letters, so I'll just do some of them the easy way by just flipping an I upside down. And then this is usually marked with an but I don't have the upsilon. Um, but this is usually marked with a capital I, and this is usually marked with like an upside down horseshoe looking thing. But in any case, these are the main things we can concern ourselves with. Bad has the vowel a, which is around here. Um, and you can also, let's see, it's a Greek. Let me type it. Yeah. I think the character is called Latin Alpha. It doesn't look quite like this, but it appears in like British accents. Um, and there are a lot of other sounds in the IPA. But what we need to concern ourselves with is, first of all, that we have ya here and wa here, and ya sound is written with a J in the IPA, so it's not ja, it's not the J of Japan. If you know how the word hallelujah is spelled, I'm pretty sure. I halle, 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 hall, hall, halle, you, ha, in any case, that word has a J in it for the y sound, I'm pretty sure. Um, but in other cases, the J almost always makes a j sound, um, or maybe even a j sound for certain like French words. But in the IPA, it makes the y sound, which we usually write with the letter Y. Um, but the thing is that our or at least my, and if you're a native English speaker, you probably have it this way too. But your feed, E, has a J at the end, on your A has also J at the end, or a yod you might call it, as well as your oo has a W at the end, oo, oo, and your O, O, O. So this means that if you record yourself saying these sounds, let's say see, say, su, and so. Say, see, so, su, so. Say, see, su, so. And if you record yourself saying them but in reverse, new, record, mono sound. See, say, su, so. Save to list, and this is an application called Prot, and I'm going to reverse. Well, I'll play it. I mean, obviously you've heard me say it, but see, say, sue, so, and I reverse it. Was, wus, yes, yes. You might hear that it sounds like I'm saying in reverse. Uh, was, wus, yes. Oh crap. Yes and yes. Let's listen to that again. Was, wus, yes, yes. And so, if you're speaking Gothic and you pronounce Gothic with all of these sounds, obviously, I mean, Gothic is like an ancient language. Um, there's no native speakers uh, to mistake this for like a different sound. And there's not even that much reason to learn how to pronounce Gothic, anyways, or even learn Gothic. But if you're like me and you want to like get all these sounds, pronounce them to what are the best of our knowledge is the way these sounds are pronounced. You're going to have to train yourself a lot to actually pronounce these sounds. with monophthongs. So, um, basically, a monophthong. In English, we have like the words cow and sigh. Let's take cow and sigh, for example. So, cow starts over here, or somewhere around there, and it goes to the W, or the U, or something like that. So it starts ow, ow, cow, and then sigh starts over here again, and it goes to the J. Sigh, 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 somewhere around here, and it goes to that J. Sigh. There are, infinitely many like possible diphthongs a language could have, but the important thing to keep in mind is that see, say, sue, so. I'm going to replace this with sue, like as in to like sue someone, um, because I don't really. I'm not. Sorry, I'm just a learner myself. And I'm not even that good with the English spelling, to be honest. But in any case, I'm going to do my best to pronounce these sounds with monophthongs. See. Oh crap! I already messed up. See, see, su, so, and let's see. So there's now number two is the one I just did. Si, se, su, so. And like I said, I'm a native English speaker, so hopefully this sounds better. But I'm, I even with lots of practice, I still, mess up. Os, us, is. Yeah, I really hope this is coming, that it's recording. I don't know, it doesn't always record. I mean, well, I'm pretty sure it'll record it. Um, but just in case it didn't, what I heard was the same thing. Like, uh, well, not the same thing as that, but I heard os, us, uh, is, and is. It's kind of hard to, record those, like write how those would be pronounced. But basically, without this ya and wa at the beginning, I can also record myself like trying to say these sounds. Um, o, o, a, e, 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 oo, oo, and o, o, a, e, 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 oo, oo, and then reverse it. Ooh, ooh, he, 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 yeah, oh, whoa. So hopefully those like sounded better, more monophthongized. Um, when it comes out to actually learning how to pronounce these sounds, um, it's really tricky. I mean, you have to like almost rewire your brain to, pronounce them. I don't know. You could look at German speakers when they're saying the sounds and try to replicate them to the best of your ability. Um, and like keep close attention to like what their mouths are doing. Um, or you could like try to pay attention to what your own mouth is doing and to say to notice when you're actually moving your mouth like ow, ow, cow, sigh, I, 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 how your tongue is moving when you're saying those sounds, and to just try to keep them in a constant position. Um, if you're not a native English speaker, um, all I can say is that every language has slightly different vowels, and what you have to change about your pronunciation will differ based on what your native language is. And if you tell me what your native language is in the comments or whatever, I can give you some advice that might help you. Or you could just, if your knowledge of phonology is like good enough, then you could figure out like what you need to change on your own by looking at the IPA. Finally, I will basically show what Gothic has. So instead of this with this and all, it doesn't have that. This is long. Um, Crap. I'll set that to with one. This is long. E. This is long also. E. This, what we do is write it like that, and it can be long. It can also be short. So this is to show that it's sometimes there. Same thing for this. It can be long and also short. This, same thing. Sometimes long, sometimes short. Um, I should say, like I said earlier, we have this. So we have the long E sound and we have the short I sound. But whether they were actually, pronounced in different parts of the mouth. So another way you could represent it is with that thing there, like this. You could write it like that um, if you pronounce both of those the same. There's not that much evidence either way, I have to say. I, th- I personally think that the evidence more strongly suggests that there was like a more centralized version. Um, and that goes for oo as well, which is o, 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 something like that. So you could say that this is always short and that this is always long, or you could also just say that it can be short or long. So like this. Um, I think the evidence better suggests this um, than this. And Gothic does actually have one diphthong in which it goes from I to O, and it would be written like, you could write it like this with a little thing underneath there. I'm pretty sure that's how it's written. Or you could write it with an I and then a U and with the thing there. Um, Neither of these are like. I mean, this is the one I would prefer because I go with the theory that this and this are how the short, you know, ones are pronounced. But there's not actually like. Some people will say like, oh yeah, if we don't have explicit evidence that there was a central realization, then we should just go with the uh, the less centralized, the more tense uh, variety. I would say that there is like some evidence, which I based on like names and things, but it's very weak. You can like sort of see like how things are written in the Latin, and it tends to, you might see like an E or something. I think it's been a while since I looked at that exactly. Um, I might like do a video on that later. Um, but in any case, it there's really no reason to say like, oh yeah, it was definitely E, not I, or oh, it was definitely oo, not oh. You know, there's no reason to say that. There's not that much reason. I mean, like evidence to say I and o. Um, but I think the evidence that there is suggests this more strongly.